You're listening to Contesting Wrestling, Minisode 46, where we are reflecting on our week with Ron Simmons and with his fan that is unrelated but also an expert on Ron Simmons, Devin T. Simmons, formerly of XSW and perhaps futurely in XSW too.
We're trying to figure it out. I've put in a good word.
Now, I have been told that within XSW, the way it works is when the big boss lady fires somebody, she often hurls them from her private plane as it coasts over the ocean. So, Devin's, doing pretty well in comparison.
Yeah, it was more of an impulse thing, I think, because the little people don't matter to her. But we'll get to the next XSW event, whenever that may be, and I'm sure Devin will be there. He's been at every single XSW event so far, and I believe he's the only one who can make that claim, except possibly
we'll get it taken care of.
Possibly our dear friend Mr. Fesh. Although did he miss one? We were talking to Rob about this.
I don't know. So. Was the one that I was at the last one at Alchemical?
Yes.
Yeah, he was there.
Yes, he was definitely there.
Cool.
So the first thing I wanted to bring up, I had asked a question during the Ron Simmons episode because I had forgotten at the moment what he did in between WCW and WWF. And actually, he was in ECW, which our friend and one-time guest, Bobby, the King of All Space, pointed out to us on Twitter. And I've seen the Ron Simmons stuff in ECW, and I think some of it was pretty good. He challenged for the world title against Shane Douglas. I had actually at one point considered one of those matches for probably for the premium episode, but it had totally slipped my mind by the time that we started recording. So thanks for that, Bobby. Ron Simmons was in ECW. He didn't do anything particularly extreme, I don't think.
He was extreme enough on his own, I think. Especially people, this is almost a WWE cliche talking point at this point, but people equate ECW with the blood and the violence. But ECW also had a lot of just solid wrestling, where on television there were a lot of cartoon characters. And a match like Ron Simmons versus Shane Douglas, I bet was a fine wrestling match in the middle of all the chaos.
Oh, I'm sure.
Something we didn't really talk about with the whole Ron Simmons winning the world title from Vader. There's this picture that I included in the image for the episode where 4 white dudes, like the whitest of white dudes, Dustin Rhodes, Brian Pillman, Barry Windham, and Van Hammer, are all carrying Ron Simmons on their shoulders as he celebrates his title victory.
Hammer.
And that's just an incredible visual. We have seen nothing like it in the fucking 30 years since then,
I sure wish I could have forgotten that I've seen.
Well, sure, yeah. Van Hammer
was there forever. But yeah, even in modern wrestling, when you see a black wrestler get a victory that's worthy of celebration, they almost exclusively just show the other black wrestlers celebrating. Now, to be fair, now there are other black wrestlers on a major league instead of them just hiring the one. Which used to be the attitude, and I'm sure there are still promoters who think, well, I'm not going to hire more than a certain amount of black people, and those promoters should go out of business.
And those promoters should be chased out of the industry.
Yeah,
yes.
It's time to do a wholesale cleaning, and it's already begun.
It is a weird thing that we see in WWE, like on Raw, there's the Hurt Business, MVP, Shelton Benjamin, and Bobby Lashley stable. And they seem to interact almost exclusively with other black wrestlers on the show. It's really weird.
You're right. I never thought of it that way, but you're absolutely right.
That's
very true.
I mean, on the one hand, it shows how many black wrestlers they have now, which is a positive. But they all lump them all into the same segment.
Yeah, no, they tend to they do that. They tend to lump them all together.
I was about to say, and I guess this is a point scored for the WWE. Just the first name that came off of my head. It's it's not like they're having Bobby Lashley face Randy Orton, and then I remembered Randy Orton's last match was getting destroyed by Keith Lee in 6 minutes.
Hell yeah!
So that was okay. You got my
they're really
attention
going
there.
with Keith Lee.
Yeah, people were worried because he lost the NXT title in a week, and it's like, how are they going to do Keith Lee dirty like this? Within 3 weeks, he debuted on Raw and beat Randy Orton with his move just immediately and decisively. And yeah, I hope they go as far as they want with Keith Lee. He is limitless.
So on the whole first Black World Champion thing, Devin had mentioned that there's a little controversy over that, given that there was one of these phantom title changes involving Bobo Brazil that was never, that is not currently recognized. And it wasn't even recognized immediately after it happened. I looked it up and I got some details on it. So this is straight from Wikipedia. October 18th, 1962. Brazil defeated Nature Boy Buddy Rogers by hitting him in the groin, causing Roger...
With a football?
I wish.
Because that always makes it funny.
Causing Rogers to be unable to continue. Brazil refused the championship, and they met a couple of weeks later, and Rogers won. At the time, the promoters were working a gimmick where the champ would be hit in the groin, and the challenger wouldn't accept the title. So it wasn't even quite a phantom title change. It wasn't like he won the title and they just didn't acknowledge it. He refused to accept the title. The same scenario occurred in Toronto 2 weeks later with Bruno Sammartino and Rogers.
Oh, man, that Buddy Rogers, he certainly didn't lose to a lot of guys.
Yeah.
I mean, he was the champion and all. He claims that when he lost the WWF championship to Bruno Sammartino, that he had just had a heart attack. To which Bruno says, well, you can see his schedule, and he wrestled every day for the previous, 3 weeks. I don't think he had a heart attack. I think he just did the job, is all it was. Also, he did the job. It doesn't... Old-time wrestlers, man. I mean, everybody loves Bruno, is the thing. Nobody ever... Bruno was a great worker, and everybody that ever mentions Bruno talks about how awesome Bruno is. The only thing even close to a crossword I ever heard about Bruno is one time when Johnny Rods was showing me how to lift weights, and he was bragging about how much weight he was lifting one day, and then he said, "Oh yeah," and then the thing about bragging about how much weight you lift is that then one time I'm thinking, "Oh, I lift all this weight," and then one of the other guys comes in and just lays in front of you and lifts twice that much. And I'm like, who was that, Johnny? And Johnny just goes, Bruno. It's like, oh, right, of course it was Bruno. Bruno's the strongest man alive. Bruno's an interesting figure. I don't know if he would fit the format of our podcast because we're so focused on matches, but I think it would be real interesting to do a look somehow at Bruno Sammartino.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's enough...
It would, yeah, no,
There's
I
enough
agree.
notable Bruno to make up some episodes. It's not going to be the most exciting viewing, but his cage match with Zbyszko, and his match with superstar Billy Graham and all that.
Yeah. Oh, we could put something together.
And some of his later matches when he was also already semi-retired, like against Randy Savage.
That's right, Bruno versus Savage.
That's all I got this week for the Minisode, guys.
I'm trying to think of. I don't know. I had a good time recording them. We just had our biggest month since we released. We had 432 downloads last month.
All those people I paid off
I know.
really helped.
We did.
It's George Soros is paying people to listen to us, right?
Yeah, everyone keeps saying that I'm getting these paychecks from George Soros, and I'm like, did they get lost in the mail?
It'd be nice to if George Soros is listening and he would like to pay me, just email me or something. I can give you my address because I will take money.
I try to play both sides, so I'm getting my Soros checks and I'm getting my Putin checks.
Oh yeah, I got those Putin checks.
You got to get into that Koch brothers money though.
Which
real.
ones pay more though?
Well, Soros is paying leftists who have a lower bar generally for life and happiness, and then because we're all broke, so he doesn't shell out as much. Whereas Putin, who obviously is behind all of who's behind the entire Trump administration and is the reason that there's anything wrong with America. As we all know, there was nothing wrong with America before 2016. Yeah, he's shelling
Ever,
out a lot
no.
more money, and then also, I am now not joking. Is that there is a lot of speculation that Putin is probably actually the richest guy in Europe, because he himself
Yeah.
is not worth that much money, but he does look. As much as I don't go in for the RussiaGate shit, like I mean, Putin is a terrible human being and runs
Oh
Russia.
no, there's no
runs
debate
Russia
there.
like
Very
a
much the
mobster.
king of Russia.
He is. It's
You know?
like it's a mobster kind of thing, and like so it's a thing where he doesn't really, on paper, like he doesn't really have a lot of money, like he's
Yeah.
not really worth much, but all of his best friends are worth like billions of dollars. Like
Right.
one of his closest friends is a cellist who's worth $3 billion and isn't Yo-Yo Ma,
Damn.
who I assume
Yo.
is the richest cellist.
They were talking about Jerry Lawler mentioned Boris Yeltsin in like that match from 1998.
Oh,
that we
yeah,
watched,
yeah.
right. And that was pretty much the end of Boris Yeltsin, right? Like Putin has been in power for 20 years now.
I think 2000. I think he came
Yeah.
into power 2000.
Wow.
Yeah.
No one should be in power that
Right,
long.
he left office and installed a puppet for a while, and then he swapped places with the puppet again.
There are some upcoming Russian elections where there's a lot of speculation about what exactly he's going to do, because he has technically reached like the limit of what he is like constitutionally allowed to do, which is obviously something that he doesn't really care about. But in the name of political theater, it's
Right.
going to be interesting to see what he does. And then there is also, for the first time in a long time, like a lot of people in Russia are actually very upset with, because there was a whole thing where he was cutting pensions, and like
oh yeah, that's no good.
and there's sort of a
Old people don't like that.
exact, and there's always sort of been a general,
And they vote.
there's a general agreement in Russia, which
Right.
is like the general agreement in a lot of places, where it's like, look, you can be a semi-dictator. You can be, as long as we're doing okay. Like, you do whatever. If you want to just be a new czar, that's fine, as long as like I don't have to fucking worry about anything. And then once he starts cutting people's pensions, they're like, well, you see, now you're breaking the deal.
Right.
Right.
Well, that's in the art of war. That's a direct strategy in the art of war, where Sun Tzu talks about how the people in any given province, they really don't care who the leader is, as long as they can just live their lives and not be generally bothered. So take over the area and just let the people be, and they'll let you take over. But if you start messing with all of the people in the area that you just conquered, they'll kill you.
I will say this is sort of connecting this back to wrestling. A lot of, so there's an argument to be made that a lot of the surrealist, a lot of the surrealist direction that political theater has gone in the 21st century, started in Russia, kind of spread out to everywhere. But specifically, there's an argument that a lot of people make that it specifically comes from this one guy. I can't remember his first name. It's like something with a V that's not Vladimir. Something Surkov is this guy who is in Putin's inner circle. If you are, I highly recommend the great podcast QAnon Anonymous. They did, which is an anti-Q, and I'm not coming out as a Q-pilled guy here. It's an anti-QAnon podcast, but they
Hey
have.
man, that's what all the
Viola-
Q-pilled people say.
I guess so, yeah.
Look, the only one of us that's ever almost accidentally ended up at a QAnon rally is
I've been invited to one.
he didn't go. He didn't go.
But
no, I mean, the fact
Vakislav Surkov.
Okay.
The fact that it's so insulated and shadowy is why you need entire podcasts to explain to people why you shouldn't get involved in that kind of thing.
But he.
Oh no!
But Surkov's, who was a guy who came out of like the avant-garde theater tradition in Russia, and then applied a lot of that to politics and to political theater, in a way that is extremely reminiscent of wrestling. In a way that is, he would do stuff like publish novels where he, about like a shadowy figure in the Russian government pulling all the strings and all the stuff, and publish those under a pen name, and then under his own name in Russia's most popular paper, write reviews of that book, being like, this book fucking sucks. This guy's like no good. And then just like lots of, fund the Nazis and the communists, and fund the anti-Putin people, and fund anti-Putin performance art, and then also fund the pro-Putin militias, and then it's just sort of like just have a massive wave of shit so that nobody knows what reality is anymore, which is
Literal shit, like a wave of literal feces that washes over you. Liquid duty.
And I've been thinking about how WWE has been doing political theater lately in this understated kind of way with The Fiend. I see that like The Fiend and the idea that the crowd is supposed to cheer for The Fiend, which came out in the instructions people were giving to people for the Thunderdome, and how like what The Fiend has done is corrupted the baby faces that he was feuding with so that they're going nuts and lashing out and doing all of this like visually destructive shit, where The Fiend quietly then becomes the de facto babyface because he's not doing all of that, and how he sort of corrupted everyone around him, including the fan base, so that he comes out looking like the hero. And this seems to me a lot like, Trump.
Man, I am still fucking waiting for evil John Cena to emerge from the funhouse.
Yes.
I mean, that will be great.
I think we all are, yeah.
Evil Roman Reigns showed up, and I can't be happier about that.
Oh, evil Roman Reigns has only been around for like a week and a half, but I'm already
would
so
like
Best
to-
into
Roman
it.
Reigns ever.
He's
He's allied with Heyman.
Yeah, I'll catch you up real quick, Evan. They had the Braun Strowman versus the Fiend title match. Like the Fiend won, and then Reigns came back, punched them both out, grabbed the belt, like I'm here, And then
Smiled with his brand new shiny
right,
fake
he
teeth.
got a new set of really nice teeth put in while he's been out. And yeah, they were like, all right.
His T-shirt says "Wreck everyone and leave."
It's a great
so then
shirt.
they bring him the contract, like there'll be a 3-way match at the next pay-per-view just next week with you and the two guys for the title. And he's like, I'll sign it eventually, but yeah, here's my guy. And they reveal he's with Heyman, which is like just incredible.
Yeah.
And then at the pay-per-view, the whole thread of the show is like, Roman hasn't signed the contract yet. When's Roman going to sign the contract? And then the Fiend and Strowman come out and Roman doesn't, and they have enough of a match. They do the spot where they do a superplex and the ring collapses into itself. And then Roman runs down the aisle, signs the contract, hands it to Paul, hits a couple of spears, and wins the title. So he's already the champion on SmackDown. And by just screwing over his opponents. And that's what we need out of Roman Reigns.
Well, because that's, for all that I have shat on Roman Reigns in this podcast, it really is just because I feel like they were not doing the right thing with his character. Where it's like, he needs to either be he needs to either be an extreme heel, like he either needs to be like straight up evil, or if they wanted to keep him a face, like I always thought their approach to making him like trying to be like a badass or whatever was dumb. Like I still want to double down on my idea that Roman Reigns should be a fireman. He should just be like going around rescuing kitties, being real sexy.
I could totally see that.
Like just being like a really good-natured hot guy who like as like maybe even not even aware that he's
Fireman Joe.
hot. Yeah, right?
Fireman Joe. He wears like the jacket and the suspenders, but no shirt.
It would,
Oh, guys, you got to cut it out, or I'm going to zone out.
That's a good idea, right? Isn't it, Katie?
It's a great idea.
Fireman Joe.
Anything that keeps his shirt off is a
that's-
great
yeah,
idea.
Instead of the fucking flak jacket.
Oh, that was the thing. It was just that they were doing it's what seemed to be the worst thing that they could do for him, because he is like a guy who exudes charisma, and then to just not use. I was always so baffled as to why I was bored and hated Roman Reigns, because I was like, this is a man who seems like I should be into this guy, but they are just not handling it well, and the jump punch is a bad move.
There was a point, so if you look at the difference between the 2014 Royal Rumble and the 2015 Royal Rumble.
Which one are each of those? The years
So the
all blend
2014 Royal Rumble is the one that Daniel Bryan wasn't in.
Is that the one where Ray comes out at 30 and gets booed harder than he's been booed
Yes.
his entire career?
So
Yes.
yeah,
Okay.
that's the one that Batista won. And the last
But even Batista said he shouldn't
and the
have
last
won.
two
Yes.
people in that match are Batista and Reigns. And the crowd is like, well, you know what? We'll take Reigns.
They wanted Reigns. The crowd really actually wanted Reigns.
Totally.
Still
The
at that
crowd had
point.
been booing the last 15 minutes of the match because what they wanted was Daniel Bryan to come and win the title. And when it was faced with Batista and Reigns was like a young hot guy on the come up. You could hear the crowd start to get over themselves and be like, well, we will take Roman if you give us Roman. Just whatever you do, don't have Batista come back and win the damn Royal Rumble.
Womp womp.
But a year later, it was anybody but Reigns. Like,
Yeah.
that's how badly they booked him, that they're pushing him as their top babyface a year later, and people will take fucking Rusev over him.
Yeah.
They'll take fucking The Big Show even.
Yeah. Has anybody
And
watched?
then they would have wanted Batista, I think.
Has anybody,
Sure.
Has anyone watched the Netflix sitcom with the Big Show?
Not yet.
No, I heard it just got canceled.
The Big Show.
Yeah.
Yeah, after one
Yeah,
season,
Show,
yes.
show. I hear it's as standard as possible.
Well,
Yeah, that's what it looked like from the trailer.
It was they were like trying to do a throwback sort of style with like a studio audience kind of thing, which
Everybody that's ever worked with the Big Show said that if you could capture his sense of humor properly, it could be a big success. But every time they've really tried, it just something's been missing.
he does seem to have like giant dad energy in a way that
Yeah.
like
There's this episode of Saturday Night Live that happened in the Attitude Era. It was hosted by The Rock, but they had a bunch of the other wrestlers on. And Big Show really shone there. And so after that, they were like, oh, I guess he has a personality. And they had him like come out and do impressions and stuff on Raw, which was okay. But yeah, they never quite figured out how to channel that talent of his.
Evan, did you ever see any of The Rock Saturday Night Live from back in the day?
I did not. I'm
oh,
not
man.
generally not a big Saturday Night Live fan.
I guess not. He was very good.
I'm sure he was.
People opened their eyes to him a lot when they saw that. He was very funny. It was spot on. Because the thing about a show like Saturday Night Live is that like it's a bunch of concepts, and most of them are just concepts. And sometimes they work, and sometimes they don't. It's just an experiment. But one of the things was one of the regulars was like, my new way to quit smoking is Nicodrel. Every time I say I'm going to smoke a cigarette, Nicodrel comes out and beats the shit out of me.
I have seen
and he
that
was The
sketch.
Rock, and that was perfect because it got to showcase what The Rock was already good at in the wrestling moves and doing his wrestling phrases. But he managed to come through the camera and do that thing that wrestlers don't know how to do, where they do wrestling stuff on another show and it's still different because you're not on a wrestling show. And he could do it. So almost nobody else could. Which was
Maybe
good.
we'll watch all that for that whole episode for a premium one day or
Well,
something.
we can at least pick out a couple of sketches,
Yeah.
We don't need to watch Weekend Update from, 1999 or something.
No, we do not.
Certainly not.
Alrighty. All right. Did we good?
Yeah.
I think we're good.
Alrighty.
I have the image of Roman Reigns dressed up like a firefighter in my head now, so I'm good for a little
It's
while.
like I need to. I'm actually gonna leave early and go deal with something.
I'm sure someone has made that in Photoshop. I'm going to look on the internet and see if I can't
Yeah.
include it in the
Let
image for
me
this
know.
episode.
That's great.
Alrighty, listeners, I am very excited for you to hear our episode that's coming up on Monday. We have actually had not a lot of wrestlers on this
This is
program.
our first actual wrestler as a guest.
It is, right?
I
All
believe,
right,
yeah.
yeah. And it made for a very it's a little different from the other episodes we've done in a good way, and I'm
It's-
very excited.
Yeah, it is something else.
So
A couple of our premium members are already talking about it on Twitter. Who got it a few days early because you get if you sign up to our Contesting Wrestling Patreon on any level, you get our episodes pretty much as soon as they're edited. However, in advance we get to.
for a long time that was not in advance at all because it was a busy summer, but we are now finally getting back to a position where you are getting the episodes genuinely in advance.
Yeah, we're scheduling more recording sessions. We got a little time. We got this. Thanks for sticking around.
Yeah, seriously.
We love
This
you.
is I'm excited for you to hear it. It's going to be great. This has been Contesting Wrestling. As Katie just said, we love you.
I stole his line.